Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the new edition of the monthly webinars hosted by Go Learning and Knowledge Group Consulting. Today, we are very happy, we are very blessed, and we are pleasured and pleased to welcome Dr. George Watts and Lori Blasek. Both of them, they are going to talk to us today about how to create our personal brands through AI. Of course, before we start, I would like to remind everyone that if you have any questions, please write them in the Q&A box, and I'll be more than happy to actually ask the questions at the end of the session and get the answers you need. It's structured this way so we don't interrupt the speakers, give them opportunity to transmit their message as effectively as possible. Before we kick off the webinar as well, I would like to introduce our speakers briefly. I'm sure there is more to what I'm going to say, but I'll start with Lori. She's the president and the CEO of TLT Coaching. She has over 25 years of corporate banking and leadership experience, and especially in multinational organizations, just like JP Morgan, for example. She's the co-creator of the TLT coaching program and the co-author of the new book, Becoming a Strategic Leader, Capitalize on the Power of Your Personality, which was published in 2024. Lori, she also co-authored numerous professional articles and has traveled globally to deliver leadership development programs. She has passion in helping people develop personal brand and turn strength into action. Our second guest for today is Dr. George Watts, who's the chairman of TLT Coaching. He's a nationally recognized leadership coach, an author, and former CEO of mid-cap public company. He's the co-creator also of the TLT coaching program and co-author of the book, Becoming a Strategic Leader, the one we spoke about. So Lori and George have co-authored this book, which is fantastic, by the way. If you care to look at it, I think everybody should read that, especially in this time and age. George has published articles on leadership and talent management in both scientific and popular journals. Recently, he was awarded the Distinguished Psychologist in Leadership for 2025. So the topic, and both George and Lori have interests similar to mine. We were chatting a little bit before the webinar started. And I'm very keen on, after reading the book, to learn more about what they have to say, especially about, creating personal brand through AI. But I think next webinar, they will talk to us about the strategic leadership bit and the personality. Now, as usual, we'll talk a little bit about our sponsors for today, Go Learning and KGC. KGC's been doing business in Abu Dhabi, established in 2006, and been operating in the region for over 19 years. They work extensively with international partners to bring the best in learning to the region. On the next slide, we will see a sample of the partners that KGC work with. You can see at the bottom, there are some top business schools and most professional companies as well. A little bit about Go Learning. As we know, Go Learning is an organization which is associated with EAND. Go Learning is a platform where you can go and it's specifically very well specialized in programs related to AI and technology. Today, we have a 3-month subscription free. If you would like to join, you can actually join for free, but you can also upgrade. So this is the upgraded version. You can get the premium courses for free for the first 3 months. So if you want to take a scan of the what do you call them, QR code, you'll be, on your way to getting a 3 months free to try their products, their courses, which are very useful and they're very detailed. So this is the promotion for the month from Go Learning. Go Learning, as we know, hosts over the 10,000 programs, and they are top quality. They're designed with global organizations and business schools, and they've worked closely with companies like Coursera and others to design these programs. With that, I think I talked too much, but I want to hand over the floor to George and Lori. It's a pleasure actually to have you, and I'm looking forward to listening to the webinar. And I look forward to our discussion at the end when we answer the questions of the audience. So with that, Lori and George, it's a pleasure, and floor is yours.
Well, thanks so much. We're honored to be with you this evening. And we are from Chicago. And as mentioned, we are leadership coaches and former executives and authors. And our goal today is simple. We want you to experience one aha moment today. Through our webinar, can you pull out one insight that you can apply to yourself? And will that spur you to develop and deepen your own self-knowledge?
Yeah, and I want to thank you also for having us here. We're very excited about presenting to you today. And my goal over the next 45 minutes is for you to learn something about yourself that you didn't know. So we'll see if we can accomplish that. Okay. George, you want to start by talking about how we created our digital coach?
One lesson I've learned over my life is to listen to your client, and your client will tell you what they want to buy. And so we were working with a large global professional services firm, and our business model is scalable intimacy. And what AI can do and what behavioral science can do, if they're fused together the way we've done it in our model, they can accelerate self-knowledge and self-insight. And by that acceleration, that's really the gift of technology, is to accelerate and collapse time. But secondly, there's nothing else besides the human to human contact. And so we have found if leaders are to grow, they need the intimacy, but we need scalability. And that's what this company asked us to do. And that's why we developed our AI coaching program, is to develop scalable intimacy. Anything else, Lori?
Just the nuts and bolts of what went into our digital coach. We have several books, many articles that we've written over the past 10 years, 1,000 pages of branding, personal branding reports that have gone anonymously into the coach, articles, videos, and then a number of things that are important from a coaching perspective that George had created before we even started this company. So it's, the digital coach, again, was created to augment what we were doing with our coaching on a one-on-one basis. Okay, so.
Well, let's start off. Is there anything new about what we're saying here today? And we were just commenting, is there anything really new? And the answer is no. The Oracle of Delphi in 800 BC, over it had know thyself. And so is there anything new today other than know yourself? The answer is no. Now, can technology and behavioral science accelerate that process? Yes. But do you have to go through cognitive struggle in order to deepen self-insight about who you are? And the answer is yes. And our philosophy about leadership is quite simple. We want leaders that are wise. Wisdom is a core aspect of a great leader. And when leaders don't have wisdom, we know it rather quickly. And what is the cornerstone of developing wisdom? Self-knowledge. But again, this is nothing new, and each person is going to have to go through their own personal journey of self-knowledge. And I think the people that take that journey more seriously deepen their wisdom. And as a result of that deepness of wisdom, they make more accurate decisions. They're able to cope with life stresses, and they're able to accelerate their career. So it has multiple reasons why self-knowledge is an important aspect of professional growth. Wanted to start out with some of our core principles that we coach by. And the idea of strength psychology emerged from positive psychology here in the United States over the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And strength psychology is an important conceptual framework for the development of leadership. But more importantly, it's not just knowing your strength. The key is, how does your strength add strategic value? In other words, how is the outcome different because you're in the room? So we want you to understand your strength, but importantly, we want you to understand how to add strategic value.
Our second core principle is don't change, grow. And this is really important because people hate to change, but they love to grow. And we don't believe in imitating someone else's behavior or strengths in order to be successful, but to become more of who you are when you're at your best. So don't change, grow is really an important tenet of our coaching principles.
And growth starts with self-knowledge, by the way. You can't grow without self-knowledge. The third principle is the overcoming of ego-driven shadow behaviors. Fundamentally, we're asked by our clients, they just want to know two questions. How do I get ahead in my career? What will derail me? Those are fundamentally the two questions that we get asked. And what is going to derail your career is your ego-driven shadow behaviors. Every strength has a shadow, and the shadow is the immature aspect of that strength. We're not going to talk about shadows today. We don't have enough time, but they're an important conceptual framework in self-knowledge. Last one.
Yeah, the collapsing time is something that, AI has been a real tool for us to be able to collapse time in this branding process. So our goal for our coachees is for them to mature and grow as much in 3 to 4 months as they would in 10 years. And it's a lofty goal, but we really believe that our principles and learning in short spurts over an extended period of time and the material that we teach can help people exponentially grow. So collapsing time through guided self-insight. Now, we're here to talk about branding. So why is that important? The branding piece is what is my area of focus here in our coaching practice. It's become a critical component of our coaching because we only have language to describe who we are. And most people don't take the time or don't to think deeply about themselves and their unique strengths, and they can't articulate those strengths. So they can't accurately describe them. And that goes to, who are you when you're at your best? If you can't describe that, you're not being able to self-advocate the way that you should.
Confidence. We get asked, how do I increase my confidence? You increase your confidence by knowing how you add strategic value. Once you fully understand that and understand how important it is for you to be in the room, your confidence naturally increases in understanding your strengths and how to apply that strength. That gets to the next point, generalized application. Just knowing your strengths superficially is not very helpful. You have to understand it deeply. So you have to be able to generalize your strength and how you add strategic value in multiple dynamics. Over the course of your career, you're going to have many, many different dynamics and ecosystems. But if you understand how you add strategic value, it doesn't make any difference what ecosystem that you're in, you're going to understand how to be successful. And that, again, takes a deepness. It's not a superficial understanding, but once you get it, you get it. It will focus your career decision-making. If you understand your brand and understand how you add strategic value, you're going to look at opportunities differently because the opportunity has to embody a lot of what you bring to the table. Otherwise, it's called stress and work. When you're applying your strength, yes, you're working, but it's not stressful because you're accelerating and you're doing such an outstanding job of doing it. It's pleasurable to do.
So the interaction with our digital coach starts with branding. So by responding to specific prompts and questions, the digital coach gets to know you. All right. So it creates a profile of you and it gives you hyper-personalized self-knowledge and hyper-personalized responses to your prompts. The more you interact with our digital coach, the more it knows you, the more specific the answers will be, and the more meaningful they'll be because it's talking specifically to you.
It does recognize patterns, and over time it will begin to recognize who you are and apply the knowledge even more hyper personalized to you. And the advantage of the digital coach, obviously, 24/7, 365, it also speaks 187 languages perfectly. So it does have an advantage of being readily available. We were talking about this. I want to talk a little bit about our personality model. And this is the best behavioral science personality model there is out there for lots of reasons. And so your brand is going to stem from your personality strength. Once you understand your personality strength, then that's where your brand comes from. And I'm going to discuss this very quickly. But the Big Five has a fascinating background. The hypothesis was human knowledge about personality is contained in the dictionary. Okay, so over time, in millennia, different cultures form a dictionary, and inside that dictionary is a wealth of knowledge if you know how to use it. And so in the late 80s, factor analysis, a statistical technique, became more prevalent with computers. And then large data samples began to break down into these 5 core components. And several of my colleagues around in different parts of the world all notice the same thing, that there's 5 core personality traits, and all other traits can be subsumed under these 5. And this is what I love about this business. These are genetic. We all are the same. We all are the same. Okay? Now, different cultures manifest these traits differently, but fundamentally, organically, humans are alike. And that I like that because I think it can give you a global view of humanity. Again, every one of these traits can be broken down individually. There's 7.5 billion people on the planet. There's 7.5 billion personality structures, yet they all come from these Big Five. So let's go through them very quickly, and understand where we're coming from. These are in no particular order. There's no one personality trait better than the next. I'm going to go through and we're going to have you rank yourself. And I want you to try and gain some self-insight from this. So let's take the first trait, the open-minded personality structure. This is basically for people who like to think abstractly. There's poets, there's musicians, there's artists, people that are future-oriented. They challenge authority. They like abstractions. Now, the shadows, they can be scattered, they can be unfocused. We all know musicians that suffer from depression and suffer from different kind of dynamics that cause problems in their life. So the open-minded personality is one of creativity, but also has one of scatteredness. The extrovert, that came, of course, from Carl Jung's work, a psychoanalytic psychologist. And the extrovert we're familiar with what this implies. Fundamentally, people energize you. Fundamentally, people energize you. The introvert, fundamentally, people de-energize them or take their energy away. But the extrovert enjoys being around people. The shadows, of course, they can be very poor listeners and very sporadic in how they behave. So that's the extrovert. The agreeable personality, you talk about the emotional intelligence. Most people that teach EI have agreeable personalities. They're relationship-driven, team player, they're empathetic. They love to partner. They love to hold deep conversations. They're shadows. They can avoid conflict. They can be naive and they can be overly compliant, but they certainly have great interpersonal skills. The fourth type, again, in no particular order, is the conscientiousness. This is thorough, dependable, organized process. They they like to lay out work and get it done efficiency. So when you think efficiency, you think organization, you think about getting things done. A lot of project managers have high conscientiousness. Now, they can be rigid, they can tend towards caution, and sometimes they can be perfectionists, but conscientious people know how to get things done. The last is what we call the emotionally stable personality structure. These are people that think rationally, objective, grounded. They're able to take and integrate and deflect stress within their psyche. Now, sometimes they can appear judgmental, they can be emotionally detached. Under stress, they can be sarcastic. But the emotionally stable personality is fundamentally a fact-driven personality. So think of the emotionally stable personality and conscientiousness as a head-driven person. The agreeable extrovert is more of a heart-driven person, and the open-minded can go either way. Now,
let me start.
okay.
This slide is actually a screenshot of the first thing that you see when you come into the digital coach. Okay, so the first thing we ask you to do is rank order your big five. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, you have all of these embedded in your personality structure. But what we're seeking are effectively the top 2 traits as we go through the branding exercise. But what we'd like for you to do is look at these definitions, and then we're going to put up a poll question. Out of curiosity, we'd love to see what the personality structure is of the group, and we're going to ask you to pick your number 1 trait and put it in the poll question. But George, you want to go over these real quick again?
Rank order them. What's your number 1 personality trait? What's your number 2, 3, 4, and 5? And this one insight can be hugely helpful for you. Now, is it more complicated and deeper than this? Of course it is. But this, nonetheless, is a very good first cut at understanding who you are when you're at your best. So rank order them, okay?
Okay, and then let's put up the poll question. Do I need to stop sharing my screen, or are we okay with that?
Well, as we work on giving you that poll question, one of the things that you want to do is take a look, think about your job, and think about how much your job asks of your first number 1 personality structural trait. It's always an interesting analysis. Okay, poll number 1. What do we do here?
I think there's a drop down.
Yeah, only the audience can actually give answers. The host
Okay,
panelists are not allowed to, for skill.
Yeah,
so they're going to choose their number 1 trait. They're going to enter their number 1 trait in. Okay? You want to keep going?
I don't know. Why don't we give 10 more seconds and then close it out? And if we have an answer, it'd be interesting to know the profile of the audience that we're talking to.
I think judging from coming this late afternoon to watch the webinar, I think probably high on C is what we'll get. High on O as well, but we'll see
There
how
we
it goes.
go. Look at this.
All right, O is good.
Well, open-minded. That's interesting. This is branding. This is a new conceptual framework for that.
Yeah.
So the open-minded personalities seem to be more interested in that. Well, we're not going to ask this group to get out and sell with extrovert only 3. Look at that, agreeable.
Yeah,
And
you want to be part of a group, that.
yeah,
That's what
so if we had to say if this group was one single psyche, we'd say this is an open-minded, agreeable group that is exploring who they are, and they get along very well. So we should form good partnerships here today.
I wish the remaining attendees have also answered that question, because I think we got about maybe 55 to 60% of the people answered.
Okay.
Well, they they may be very conscientious and thorough and are thinking about the answer, which is, to be expected. So, okay, well, we'll keep moving on. So if we can close out the poll question and go to the next slide. I can't go to the next slide. It's not letting me go.
Yeah, if we I can get going on the next slide.
It's not, oh, there, okay, now we're good. Okay. Okay, so this is also a screenshot. This is the second screenshot from what you see when you go into the digital coach. Okay, so how do we create this branding statement? So you've ranked yourself, and now we want you to begin to drill down on those top 2 traits and begin to think about specific words that reflect who you are when you're at your best.
And could we move that box over a little bit if it's possible, or close it in order to see all the words?
That may just be on your end. I don't know.
Okay. Look at the positive descriptors. Think about your number 1 trait that you just ranked yourself on. And what we did was go deeply into the research and looked at all the different ways each personality structure can have a sub-trait under it. And so 2 people can be open-minded, but one of them is more of an abstract thinker. The other one is more of an original thinker. And the difference between the 2 is significant, but it does stem from the meta trait of open-minded. So take a moment and look at your number 1 trait and look at your number 2 trait and choose the 2 words, one under each, that best describe you.
And just to piggyback on what George just said, for example, extroversion. Some people are very, very good at working a crowd and being socially bold. But other extroverts, you could have a number 1 trait as extrovert, but you're not as socially bold, but you're more of a performer. Okay,
Right.
you're comfortable on stage. So these are the nuances that we try to pull out as we go through this branding process, because it comes back again to that self-knowledge in a granular sense.
And this is based upon behavioral science. It is an accurate self-knowledge. Okay. And that's the key word. How accurately do you understand yourself? And the more accurately you understand yourself, the more accurate your brand is.
Right.
Okay. Let's take an example.
Okay. So what happens then is you input your top 2, your ranking. So I did one for myself. I'm an agreeable extrovert, and I picked my positive descriptors, and I was an empathetic energizer. Okay, so back up to this. Agreeable extrovert, empathetic, and energizer. The digital coach then asks me for more descriptors, again, because the more it knows about you, the more specific the coaching will be. So I gave it more descriptors for myself. And I'm expressive, I'm approachable, I'm sensitive. So I loaded those in. And then what we have done is we have created 3 questions that the coach asks you. So the first one, and George is going to talk about this and why it's important, describe the earliest childhood memory when you felt successful.
I want to take off on that. I want each of you to remember back when you were 6, 7, 8, clear up through grade school. What was an incident in your life that you felt successful, that you got recognition, you got credit, you felt proud of yourself, and it was work, but you greatly enjoyed doing it? For example, mine was I was Frosty the Snowman in 1st grade. But the fascinating thing is this: that early success burned neural pathways, and that early success is connected to your strength. So that's how you'll really understand it. So take a moment to reflect on your life and understand when you had your earliest success. And that moment that incident is connected to your strength.
Okay, so once you insert that into the digital coach, it will respond and it will, acknowledge that. There are two more questions. The next one is describe the job components you most enjoy and are good at. Okay, so these are things that are going to be connected to your strengths. If you're good at them, you enjoy them and you're naturally good at them. So mine are engaging clients, helping people think through issues, and connecting dots to help people turn strengths into action. And then the last question is describe the perfect role to capitalize on your personality strengths. And mine is I hold authentic conversations, identifying issues, and help people see a pathway forward. And that's what I do in coaching. Okay, so then what happens is the digital coach creates an entire branding report, a report on you. And it created for me 4 branding statements. So I look at these, I hold deep conversations to build trusting relationships. I connect dots to develop actionable strategies. I like that one a lot. I quickly develop authentic relationships through empathetic listening, and I energize clients to see future possibilities. All right, so the process we have people go through is to get to this point and then begin additional interaction with the digital coach. And what I did is I gave it words and phrases. I pulled specific language out of these 4 and asked it to come up with more succinct branding statements. And this is what I ended up with. I energize people to take future focused action. Okay, it's 7 words with 2 hyphenated. It's very short, it's action oriented, and it perfectly reflects who I am when I'm at my best. This is what I'm doing. This is what I was born to do. Okay. And this is phase 1 of your interaction with the digital coach. Then after you go through this, then the coach begins to know you, and you can feed it questions. We have a list of 30 questions that have different topic areas, but the branding is where we start. George, do you want to talk a little bit about the combination of the AI and the individual coaching, and then we can go to Q&A.
I just want to say that you can't look at this superficially. Your brand is based upon a deep knowledge of yourself, and it's based upon your strength. But this is the ultimate elevator speech. This is how you weigh opportunities. This is how you introduce yourself. This is who you are when you're at your best. Who are you when you're at your best? That is the core of the brand. So I don't expect you to get it right now. But the cognitive struggle in deeply understanding what those 2 words mean and how they're fused together to form your brand is a wonderful way to gain self-knowledge. So why don't we go to the next one?
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing, especially in leadership settings, the branding process really would be beneficial to help a leader understand their people. So, this process takes about 20 minutes to 30 minutes all in. I used to spend 4 hours on these individually coaching people, but think about how the AI can accelerate this process by having people go through this individually, sharing their reports and working on their branding statements individually, as opposed to spending a lot more time on it, and then using that as a framework to have deep conversations with your people about their strengths. Are they in the right role to capitalize on and leverage their brand? So there's a lot of applications to branding. It's self-knowledge and self-insight, but it also has broader implications from a leadership point of view.
And I would just say, imagine performance appraisals where the core discussion is around your brand, how you add strategic value through that brand. It gives a completely different orientation than what are your weaknesses and what are you going to do about them. It's a very strength-oriented performance appraisal. Well, at this point, should we entertain some questions or entertain some ideas?
We could.
We
Uh,
could.
so
You've got 10 minutes.
We have 10
we
minutes
have 10
left, so
minutes.
let's
Yeah.
jump to a couple of questions if we could.
So thank you so much. It's been actually very interesting to see that there is a proper utilization of personality, the Big Five model, especially the Big Five model, in that you're actually looking at the underlying facets of the, what you call them, the meta traits, because there's a lot of things that are lost in the, in the details of the facets. And just to capitalize before I ask my question on your point, 7.5 billion people. Imagine that each one of those sub-traits. I wish you could take us back to that slide. That
Yeah.
if you rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 with increments of 0.1, what is the what do you call it, how many traits you can, so that's 5 traits, and each one of these sub-traits is on a scale from 1 to 10 on a scale of 0.1, like 1.1, 1.2, and so on. So you'll have like probably billions of personalities, and this is why people are genuinely different. My question is, how does the AI, and this is probably something very straightforward for AI, is able to distinguish between these personality sub-traits and tailor or customize a coaching journey that's quite different from somebody who's next to it, although sometimes the difference is a little marginal, let's say. I see the value in marginal, so.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I asked the same question to the people that we partnered to develop this, and they basically said, "Well, we don't know. Why don't you ask Sam Altman?" And so how AI structurally works, to be honest with you, I don't quite understand it. I do know that once you enter in and you work with your brand, then all the coaching that you get comes up through your brand, so it's hyper personalized to you.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it so powerful. But all of our coaching starts with our brand. And once the AI understands your brand, then the coaching becomes very, very personal. And you can load all kinds of interesting, thoughtful, deep questions to help you understand who you are. Lori, any other thing?
And we did load all of our intellectual property into this digital coach. So that's the first layer of coaching that you get. It's not reaching out into the universe to take someone else's philosophy. It starts with us. It starts with our IP.
It starts with our IP. This book just came out last year, published by the American Psychological Association. So the AI, this is our core model. Becoming a strategic leader, capitalize on the power of your personality. And that's really what the brand is how to capitalize on the power of your personality. So the AI works you through our book, and our book and the AI fuse together to form a learning system.
Yeah, that's what makes it. Yeah, it is part of a system. And that's what makes this our system unique.
Wow. Interesting. I was doing a little bit of calculation. I'm sure I did it wrong, but at some point I did the calculation of how many, if I look at personality, the Big Five, and assume that there are 5 traits and each one you can answer on a scale from 1 to 5, you get actually 3,125 different personality traits, let's call it, right? Profiles. But what I did now is I did like from 1 to 10, right?
Yeah.
And I got 62,500. So imagine that you're able to distinguish, and this is wrong because the increments are, there are like, you're not looking at 5 traits, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 facets. So that's like 60 different facets in all. And scale from 1 to 10, and it's like billion. And I'm imagining the power of you being able to customize out of 1 billion people what is the coaching style that you're going to use with me, it's something fascinating. It's wonderful. Reem, actually, she has a question. It says where she can buy the book from. I'm sure Amazon would be probably
Amazon, the American Psychological Association. We're carrying it all over the United States in bookstores. I don't know if it's in your local bookstore, but certainly from the American Psychological Association, you can order it. And Amazon, God only knows you can buy anything from there.
Yeah, the APA has a discount code, so
The
that's where you
APA
want to
has a
go.
discount
And
code.
we also have a website called Becoming Strategic, and you can get the code there. But I just want to quickly go back to your point. When you look at these descriptors, okay, I'm an empathetic energizer. That's my brand. George is an inspiring presenter. That's his brand. Okay. And so, you know, we've had coaches say to us how critical this branding process has been for them. It's like an anchor. Okay. Now I know I've got these words that describe me and my career decisions, my way of thinking, my you know, it is part of how you collapse time because you're very clear on the path that you should take because you
And
have
that's how time is
those
collapsed. And
right.
that's the power of AI. AI will collapse the time. You don't have to spend a lifetime learning about yourself. As you grow and develop and mature and deepen your wisdom over time, you have to constantly reflect on yourself.
Yeah.
But understanding who you are when you're at your best, using accurate language, and understanding how you add strategic value, it's an enormous boost to your career and to your confidence and to your ability to effectively navigate your life and the world around you.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
other
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. So there's a. I can't say your name. Lartigue, I think. Lartigue. She's asking a question. She's saying she wants to learn more about AI. And if you can guide her on how she can learn more about AI.
Well, certainly we're working with the knowledge group. And so, you know, we're going to refer you to them to come to us, so to speak. But how do you learn more about AI? You know, how do you not learn more about AI? It's kind of it's the number one topic in all of our clients' minds right now. It is going to change how we interact with each other. Again, we still have the same psyche that we've had for millennia, though, and there is no substitute for the cognitive struggle and the deepness and the introspection to develop wisdom and to develop a more deep, more aware psychodynamic within your own psyche.
Yeah, with respect to coaching, we just see AI as an accelerating
We see it as not a substitute, not a substitute.
right, not a substitute. But you know, how do you learn more about AI? It's, you know, let's get down to details here. Okay, what is it that you would like to know? You know, is it the technology piece? Is it some specific application? You know, AI is going to be you know, cleaning your house and working the robots, you know, and driving cars, and it's
I'll give you a quick introspective question. Whoever asks that, think about your strengths and you reflect on your strengths by this personality exercise you do, and then think about the question. Tell me, and you'll find a relationship. If you'll understand your strength, you'll understand why you asked the question. And that's an introspective look. And life, if the more you understand that conceptual model of why you ask questions based upon your strength, the deeper your introspection is.
Absolutely. And but here's a question actually which I've been fiddling with for the past couple of minutes before I had the opportunity to ask it for you. And PP is asking, is it about who you are or is it about who you are supposed to be or a mix of both? It's just I find it quite an intriguing question.
It's a very intriguing question.
Hmm.
Who you are always has the illusion of the ego. Who you want to be is your highest self. And so is the psyche composed of the illusion of the ego? Yes. But with increasing wisdom, you move past the illusion of the ego and begin to have your highest self emerge. And that's when great intuition, great insight, and clarity of thought take place. So the question is a beautiful one, and it really resonates with me because a lot of our work is moving people past the illusion of the ego into your highest
Their
consciousness
shadows.
and overcoming the shadows, right? And the shadows are really the projection of the ego.
And let me just add one more thing, which is really important, that idea of who do I want to be? Many smart and accomplished people that we coach are confused because they're very good at a lot of things. Okay. And I always tell people, just because you can do something and do it well doesn't mean that's what you should be doing. And so finding your passion and getting very clear on how you're world class, it gives people this process gives people permission to be who they are, okay, and not who someone expects them to be or who they thought they should be, but who really fundamentally are you.
Yeah.
And back to the earlier conversation that we had about conscientiousness, I was a banker, I can do a great spreadsheet, okay, but I'm an extrovert and an agreeable, and that's not what I should be doing. And so again, just because you can do something well isn't where you should spend your career. And if you're unhappy in your role, take a step back and think about, how did your strengths that you identified, how do they manifest in this role? And if they're not manifesting in your role, then you should be rethinking, what the next step is for you.
Absolutely. I think this is very profound, is that, it just because you can do something well doesn't mean that you like to do it. And this is where, a lot of people or a lot of managers make a mistake where they find somebody who's good at something and they give them more of it, but they never ask the question, do you really like this? Or can you teach somebody else to do it who can enjoy something, to do something thoroughness and stuff, which I don't like because, I'm a less more on the strategizer part than on the more methodical and planner and stuff, hardworking.
Well, when I found out when I was a CEO, somebody actually has to do the work, and it wasn't me.
Absolutely, yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay. We cannot be great at everything. It's okay. Just you got to figure out what you're great at and then do
Yeah.
more of that.
And actually surround yourself with the people who complement you.
100%.
that's a different webinar, but we get
That's
into
our next webinar.
That's our
Okay.
next webinar, by the
Yeah.
way.
I think we're a few minutes.
We're a few minutes past. Well, thank you so much. I want to thank the Knowledge Group. You've been a great partner to work with. And I want to thank everybody for attending today. And I hope you gain
Seeing
one
you
insight.
again next month.
We'll see you next month.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. You have a great day ahead. And ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening. It was a pleasure to host you. And thank you all for being here. And we'll see you all next month in the next edition of the webinar.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.